Why Britain Left the European Union and the Aftermath by James Armel. On the 23rd of June 2016, the British people voted narrowly to leave the European Union, also known as the EU. The big question is, why did Britain want to separate from the rest of Europe? In this presentation, I will be looking into reasons that were presented by both the British government and the people to leave the European Union. I will then talk about some of the consequences of their decision to leave the EU. Some background. In the past decade, there has been a rapid growth in immigration to the United Kingdom. This immigration was mainly coming from other EU member states in Central and Eastern Europe. This immigration was considered an issue by many in Britain and was a big point they used in their petition to leave the European Union. The large and unplanned immigration of EU workers was placing a burden on labor markets, housing, and public services. Many British people also felt that it was negatively affecting their British culture and the meaning and significance of Britishness. How is Britain going to gain support for Brexit? Younger demographics were the biggest focus of media attention both before and after Britain voted to leave the European Union. Young people are often thought of as being uninterested with politics. Young individuals are less politically engaged than every other age group. Still, they mostly prefer to stay in the European Union compared to older generations who would rather leave. This means that because of their lack of interest in politics, their absence from the vote may have been the deciding factor for the Brexit decision. This leaves the question, is the only reason Brexit passed because there was not a proper voter turnout? Why did Britain Brexit? All the countries a part of the European Union have their differences, but Britain has been more different than the rest. Britain is big enough to believe it can make a difference. The creation of the Economic and Monetary Union, the EMU, was the main turning point in this rough relationship between Britain and the rest of the European Union. For Britain, Maastricht was a big step too far in integration, which it felt unable to stop and instead secured an opt-out. British governments felt increasingly uncomfortable with the accelerating pace of European integration. Things became even worse during the Euro crisis, when Britain became marginalized in a union where the EU was at the center. What is at stake in the negotiations following the referendum? One of the biggest things Britain would like to do upon leaving is to secure unrestricted access for its exports of goods and services to the European internal market, which makes up almost half of total British exports. For the European Union, Brexit will definitely be a loss as far as politics are concerned. However, because the rest of the EU is so large, as long as they remain united, they will have a lot of bargaining power over Britain if they decide to leave. The EU's main bargaining stance has been that access to the internal market is only allowed if you accept the EU's regulations. Also, that you can't have free trade without free movement of people, and Britain's contributions to the European Union's budget will continue for all past and ongoing commitments. Britain started with a strategy of pick and choose, which it has been forced to revise and retract by the European Union, who has given them a take-it-or-leave-it deal. This is a speech from the British Prime Minister May outlining Brexit. The European Union is beginning a new chapter in the story of its development. Just last week, President Juncker set out his ambitions for the future of the European Union. There is a vibrant debate going on about the shape of the EU's institutions and the direction of the Union in the years ahead. We don't want to stand in the way of that. Indeed, we want to be your strongest friend and partner as the EU and the UK thrive side by side. We may be leaving the European Union, but we are not leaving Europe. Our resolve to draw on the full weight of our military intelligence, diplomatic, and development resources to lead international action with our partners on the issues that affect the security and prosperity of our peoples is unchanged. Our commitment to the defense and indeed the advance of our shared values is undimmed. Our determination to defend the stability, security, and prosperity of our European neighbors and friends remains steadfast, and we will do all this as a sovereign nation in which the British people are in control. Some negative effects on the economy. Although Britain's economy has been able to avoid a complete recession, it has taken a big hit. Since the Brexit vote, consumers have experienced a loss of purchasing power due to rising prices and a depreciation of the pound. Furthermore, Great Britain has become less attractive for direct investment. A no-Brexit deal would have strongly negative repercussions for the UK's trading partners, especially for Germany. Great Britain used to be the third largest export market for Germany, and due to the ongoing reduction of exports to Britain, it has dropped to the fourth rank. Split parties. 7% of Britons say the talks have gone well, according to recently published data from the National Centre for Social Research. Meanwhile, 80% of Leave voters and 85% of Remainers say it's been a mess. The constant Brexit counteroffers and Parliament's inability to agree to any final deal have badly damaged the United Kingdom's once great international standing as a leading parliamentary democracy and a strong diplomatic power. Parliament has rejected May's deal multiple times in the past, but it has also not yet agreed to any alternative. The big problem is that both the ruling Tory party and the main opposing Labour Party are deeply split over Brexit. The only thing a large majority of Britons can agree on is that they don't want to crash out of the European Union without a deal. A no-deal Brexit would severely damage Britain's economy. Some other effects of Brexit. Because Brexit has become such a problem and a catastrophe, other nations in the EU have cancelled their plans to follow Britain's lead. They have seen how difficult it has been to make a deal and at the same time how much of a negative effect it has had on the economy. Hearing from the Scottish people. Even though Scotland voted 68% to 32% against Brexit, there is still around 1 million Scots who want out. One woman believes that the EU has grown into a great big monster, that she doesn't want to be a European, and she does not support the Scottish Nationalist Party because they just want to rejoin the European Union when Britain gets out. Some also feel that in the last few years they've been run by Germany and France. One woman even went as far as saying she didn't care if they came out with no deal. She said it's fine if some suffer at first because she believes they will eventually become stronger on their own. Scots against Brexit. Even though before the referendum the majority of Scots were against Brexit, and all 32 Scottish local authorities voted with a majority to remain, a 2016 poll regarding Scottish support for a second European Union referendum has shown that levels of anti-Brexit support in Scotland has been decreasing. Currently, the European Union has a strong hold over Scotland's policy and legislation in areas such as the environment and agricultural and fishing industry sectors. Scotland's departure from the European Union would have an uncertain effect on the economy and environment in Scotland and for the UK as a whole. Contrarily, in the event that Scotland left the UK, this would pose immense problems concerning the location of tactical nuclear deterrents. The expenses of identifying suitable alternative locations would be substantial. Problems concerning North Sea oil would also undoubtedly arise. Conclusion. I've come to the conclusion that Brexit has overall taken a huge toll on many people, both through taking a hard hit in the decline of the economy and with people having to choose sides. It has been difficult for some to choose where their loyalties lie.
Some feel Britain will be stronger on their own, and some feel that they should remain a part of the European Union. And this is my works cited page.